Alright, hey guys, Lightfuzion here, bringing you guys another Wolcen Lords of Mayhem video. This time what we're going to take a look at character progression and what happens when you level up your character in the game. Now in my last video we actually looked at the different skills in the game, so this time we're going to look at your character, what happens when you level up. I'm actually going to cut off the face cam because looking at the skills, some of these screens actually go down that side of the screen, and I want you guys to be able to see everything that we're talking about. I don't want anything to be covered up. So the first thing that happens when you level up, you're awarded 3 stat points. Now these 3 stat points, you can distribute them however you want in these 4 categories. So you have strength, which is going to increase your damage, your critical damage with weapons. It's also going to improve your rage generation and your stun duration. We can also choose to put points into dexterity, which would increase our movement speed, dodge chance, and our critical chance. And then of course constitution is going to affect our maximum hit points, so how much health we have and how quickly our character recovers from stuns and knockdowns. And then power is going to be the spellcaster equivalent of strength. It's going to increase our maximum resource pool as well as increase our spell damage and spell critical chance. Now like I said, each time you level, you're awarded 3 stat points to put into any 4 of those, however you want, with the max level currently being 20. That means you have 57 stat points. It's an odd number because at level 1 they don't give you don't have any stat points at level 1, so you get your first 3 at level 2. And that is the first step on leveling up. Now the next thing that happens is going to involve this Gate of Fates. Now you can access this from your character to distribute points, but if you want to start doing any in-depth tuning or customizing, you actually have to come to this little thing here so you can rotate stuff around. Now this is the Gate of Fate. Now when you level, you're also awarded 3 Gate of Fate points, just like the stat points, that you can distribute on this kind of however you see fit. You have to start at a certain point, and then as the light connects you could branch off. So like I picked this one, then once I picked this one I could pick any one of these 3. Now when you're looking at this, the green orbs, so you see these green orbs, those are going to be your ranged character orbs. Those are going to involve ranged, and they're usually going to be tied with DPS and dexterity. So those are ranged DPS and dexterity. They may include a little bit of melee, but primarily on those it's going to be ranged and dexterity. If we go right on over to these blue orbs here, the blue orbs are going to focus on character movement, and they're also tied to dexterity because of course dexterity increases our character's movement speed. Those will have to do with dodge chance, increasing your stamina, which is the resource that's used to perform the dodge action in the game. If we go around next, we have these kind of golden yellow colored orbs. Those are going to be tied to constitution, and those usually have survival stats added in with those. Like looking at this one, it gives us a greater protection angle for our shield. Most of them increase your armor or some type of defense. The purple ones here are going to be your spellcaster ones. Those are tied to power, so those are our caster orbs. And then of course the final one is the red orbs. Now the red orbs are going to be tied to melee, and those are going to be strength based. So those are strength based melee orbs. Now when you first start out, you have to pick one of these 5 orbs, and these are basically the 5 starting classes, I guess you could call them that. You have Legionary, which is your melee DPS. You have Hunter, which is going to be your ranged DPS. We have Thief, which is also a melee DPS character, but it's going to focus more on movement speed and dodge than physical DPS. And then we have the Guardian, which is going to be your tank type character. And then of course Arcanist, which is your spellcaster. Now if you're looking at the orbs, the more, I guess it's like an emblem, the bigger the emblem around the orb, the more impactful that point is. And these with the really big emblems around them, those are kind of key passives. A lot of times they change kind of how your character plays or add some pretty substantial effects to your character. Like if you go down this one to this one that I picked here, Titan Strength, it actually allows me to wield two-handed weapons as if they were one-handed. So that essentially lets me dual wield two-handed weapons. And the final color, the gray, I forgot to mention it. Those, if you see any of those are just passive skills that they haven't implemented yet. So they don't cost you any points to take those because there's not a skill or passive associated with that yet. And now the way they have this is you have these 5 classes here. In the inner circle, you have your 5 basically starter classes. And then as we progress out to this second ring here, if you notice, the title at the top of this passive has changed. Just like back here in the inner one, it was Legionary. We progressed to the next ring and it was titled Gladiator. So we have Hunter on the range. We progress out, it is called a Trickster. Then we have a Thief. And that says Elementalist, which should actually be over here. So we have Assassin. And then we have Guardian and Warden. An Arcanist and Assassin. Which Assassin, you know, I would probably rotate it around. Let me actually select that ring. And you can rotate it around. This is going to allow for some pretty interesting character customization options, because you can actually rotate any, you know, you can rotate these rings around however you want. Now if you notice, it's lighting up. This second ring here lights up. Now when it's lit up, that means these passives are active. So when I rotate it around and it breaks the chain, I no longer have access to those passives. So you always want to make sure that your second ring is lit up. That is a very, very brief, quick look. I'm not going to go into, you know, a lot of detail about each one of these nodes and each one of these key passives, because it is still an alpha build and it is subject to change. But that kind of gives you a quick look at character development. I feel like a lot of those passives probably are pretty close to the final version. They may do a tuning pass or kind of readjust some of those passives, but overall I feel like that's probably going to be pretty close. We'll wait and see, you know, how it shapes up. We should be getting an update to the game this week. It's been probably 2 weeks since we had an update, and the developer for this game is pretty active on development. I mean, we usually get an update every other week or so. And of course, if you guys have any questions about the game, you want to see anything about the game, have any suggestions for me, drop me a comment below. And as always, guys, make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you guys later.